Hi, everyone. Welcome to LinkedIn Live today. Rachel Simon
Hello.
from Atlanta, and Rachel and I are going to get together this coming week, which I'm so excited for.
Me too. I wore my Brave shirt
Well,
just for you.
we're going to have a little bit of a surprise, which I'll share with you, but Adam is not going to know about it until he gets down there. Paul and I got Brooklyn Dodgers caps because
Oh
they're
my
playing the
God.
Dodgers, and we don't like the LA Dodgers, so we're going to just take them out of the game.
That's hilarious. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be such a good game. I mean,
I
you're going to
know.
see like a very long standing ovation for Freddie and probably people
Right.
crying and being all excited that he's back. So,
But what I'm so excited about is actually meeting you, and we've had so many conversations. In fact, over that weekend, I'm going to be having a call, logging in from my hotel room because they're having that Jersey diner conversation on Saturday morning. So it's going to be a lot of networking. Um,
yep, that's a good
all,
thing. It's all fun. It's all
all
fun.
good. So I want to welcome everyone to the call today. Rachel and I, did we first meet on LinkedIn, or was it Clubhouse, or where was it? I'm not even sure anymore.
I feel like Clubhouse, but maybe I can't remember that part of what time all mushed together in my
Right.
head. Um, because LinkedIn and Clubhouse were like best friends in the beginning of 2021. So
I'm actually heading back to Clubhouse tonight for the first time in a long time.
yeah,
So it's
I'm
going to be
barely
a
on
good one.
there.
So Rachel and I are very big anti-automation folk um, for all different reasons. We actually we don't like the idea of automation. We've actually gone to a couple of sessions where people have shared with us how they do automation, kind of like as investigative reporting, and it's really helped us understand the frustrations. I get pitched a lot of stuff. I think the word pitch slap actually, came out of this, and you've gotten some very interesting automated requests and the like. And do you feel like sharing anything specific?
I mean, there's always just the weirdest ones. I'd say this year I've gotten less really weird ones. So last year, like the end of the year, I usually write a blog of like the worst connection requests of the year. So the winner for 2021 was, "Hi Rachel, I see you're part of a paving company." That's how it started. So that was a special one. I like the ones where I get pitched on how to use LinkedIn to build my business. That's a fun one for me since that's actually what my business is. Um, I like the ones that talk about how I'm an SEO expert, which I don't know a thing about SEO other than I know it's important and I need it and it helps me with it. But I don't know where that keyword would have gotten pulled out of my profile because it's nowhere to be found. So there's always just some fun and interesting ones. I have gotten as many of those in connection requests this year. I'm getting more of the immediate pitches when I accept, which just makes me feel sad.
And that's something that a lot of people are guilty of, even on my end. And I've not connected with a bunch of people in certain industries, which is unfortunate. I'm not going to connect with a financial person. I'm not going to connect with a business development person right away because I'm just so afraid I'm going to get pitched. So, and they don't necessarily send much in terms of connection requests. It's automated. And I think we've talked about that before, the same automated connection request again and again and again, just different names, different times of day. One thing I've actually started to do when I get a connection request, I don't follow up right away. I follow up maybe the next day or something like that because maybe just a defense mechanism, but that's just kind of what I've tried to do instead of like a thanks for connecting right away.
Yeah, I've been batching them. So like I let them pile up and then I kind of will open all of them to kind of check out their profile and get a sense of who the person is. If there's anything in their profile or headline that talks about lead generation or growth hacking, I just immediately decline those. I'm no thank you. Um, but like I accepted a few before I left for my vacation like last week, and then I came back to a whole bunch of, are you currently using video to reach your business goals? Like, Well, why don't you look at my profile and then you can see that for yourself, which the answer would be no. But it's just so annoying. I don't know.
So I
People,
just want to do some shouts. Trish McGrath is checking in from Florida. We connected, I think, on one of Brenda Miller's calls a while ago. I'm not as old as remembering when the Brooklyn Dodgers actually were in Brooklyn, but I'm a Mets fan. And the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Giants moving to California actually is why the Mets got together. They took the colors of the Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers, that orange and the blue, and they became the new thing in town. Which now in New York, between the Yankees and the Mets, we're having a lot of fun about who's the better team. I mean,
I had no idea about the Mets origin story. That's cool.
well, it's because they're the Metropolitans, and the Dodgers are blue, the Giants were orange, and they still are to some extent. So that's how the colors came out.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And the Braves were all over the country till they landed in Atlanta. So,
And you're in Boston, Milwaukee.
Mhm.
You've been down there now at least 50 years, I think, or something.
Yeah. Yes, definitely since like the 60s.
So how long have you been down in Atlanta?
23 years. I moved here in the summer, June of 1999 after grad school. So it was the right decision. I met my husband very soon after I moved here. So all good things.
I think for me, I mean, I love coming to the South from time to time. I know how hot it's going to be in Atlanta, and I'm very, but for me, I like, there's something about New Jersey, which again, like I'm sure you feel about Atlanta. There's something about being here and calling it home. And what I've really liked about the last couple of years is I've been able to find so many people from so all over the world, and we're just sharing things about our background. So I'm really happy to see Utsav here from British Columbia. Um,
Mhm.
we have our usual folk here too. Chris, of course, from Detroit. Um, Alex, first of all, just a reminder, make sure that Lisa sets up the Zoom for us to have the conversation on Saturday. Yes, financial people have lots of connections, but the problem is to get to their connections, you have to undergo multiple attempts at them pitching themselves. And
Maybe you should what if you preemptively pitch them? Like you connect with them and then send them a message immediately saying, thanks for connecting. I'm going to preemptively strike against your automated.
it would definitely be an interesting experiment to try, because I'm always trying to play around with this, have fun
Yeah.
with a lot of stuff, because if you don't, then you just go crazy.
Well, one of the people who had sent me a connection request is a business attorney here in Atlanta. And I knew he was using an automation tool because anybody is connected with me, I have a little tilde before my first name. That's the dead giveaway and everything. And, he sent me a message about business attorney services. And I just responded to him because the networking group I'm in, we're actually looking for a business and trademark attorney. So I was like, well, I don't need your services, but would you like to come visit my networking group?
Mm-hmm.
And so I hope he'll come. So I'm trying to take advantage of those opportunities a little bit more, where I feel like there was another woman who has a financial advisory company, like her own company, who connected with me, and I haven't accepted it yet, but I sent her a similar invitation to kind of learn more about our networking group. So I'm thinking about who are the people that actually they can help me in some way before they pitch me to death.
And I think the idea of a tilde, just so people know, it's putting something in front of your name or something alongside your name, like Andy Foote has done that. We've all done it, so that it's a way that you can kind of, I mean, when you get one of those pitches, because you have that tilde, how do you know that it's an automated versus not? Or
Well, nobody would write that in an actual message. So if you're sitting down and typing my name to start a message, it would be really weird if you put the tilde there first.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just not natural. Same as like Andy or somebody else who I can't think of.
Well,
Like
Brenda, I think, also does it with the pie, I think.
she's got the pie. I think
Right.
Lauren Greif has like Some
The
letters
rocket.
are capitalized, some are not.
Right.
You would never type someone's name all in caps if you're sending a message.
Mhm.
So it's those little like dead giveaways. The other one, like somebody, I have got to find the message because I saved it for today.
Sure.
The other like dead giveaway is when somebody clearly pulls some like scraping things from your profile. So this one I got, hey, Tilda, Rachel, thanks for connecting with me. I love getting to know the people in my network. I see you're the founder and CEO Pipe LinkedIn training and consulting for business professionals for your agency. What services have you been offering to your clients lately? And I was like, oh, I mean,
So
because a bot, an automation tool is not going to read that message and say the grammar makes no sense there. They're just pulling the title from your experience section.
I think this is like Lori Walker. I'm pretty sure she actually has that. She has that on hers too. Is that against LinkedIn's terms and conditions? Because it's not actually your name that's on there. And there was a time that it had to be your name. It couldn't be your name with anything else.
Like an emoji. I don't really know. I feel like if they're going to fight over something like that, there's a lot more bigger fish to fry out there. Some people I've even seen, I can't remember who did it, put like, it was so subtle, just a little period right before or at the end of their first name where you almost wouldn't even notice it, but they know it's there. And so it's just those little things make a big difference, I think. But yeah, when you get those messages where it's like the grammar makes absolutely no sense because they're just pulling random pieces from your profile. So I responded with the Brenda Meller strategy, which was test.
Mm-hmm.
And the person actually responded, hi, don't know what you mean by test, but it's a pleasure to be connected with you, blah, 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 blah. And and I said, and I also saw Brenda's message or post from the other day. So I said, it's my reply when I get an automated message like yours to see if there's a real person or just another message in the series. Are you open to some feedback on your approach? And I have yet to hear back from this person.
I have to tell a different type of funny story. On Mondays, I do a session here in Jersey, the Jersey Job Club, for people that are in transition. And one of the people sent me a connection request 2 weeks ago. And this person was just getting started on LinkedIn. And he had 5 connections.
Oh.
He didn't have a title. He was just starting out, and he hadn't personalized the message. So, having had the conversation with him yesterday, we connected. But before that, I would have thought, here's a person with 5 connections that doesn't have a title, that doesn't have any background, that doesn't have anything going on. You know, there's so many missed opportunities like that. And I get the feeling with a lot of people on LinkedIn, maybe not the ones that throw out the automated, they just don't know how they're being perceived.
Yeah, absolutely. So like one of the things that I see, I'd say every single time I do a training, at least one person realizes this setting is off. And that is that they don't know that their photo is not set to be viewed to the public. And I don't know if it was like an old setting or a default setting that somehow their picture got set to be seen only to their network but it inevitably every single time I walk through how to check it, somebody's like, oh my God, I can't believe my picture wasn't visible. Because to someone outside their network, it looks like there's no photo and their profile looks incomplete. So double check your.
And this is an example here. I don't know who this user is here, but this is an example.
There you go. LinkedIn user. We don't know who you are.
I don't know who you are. I mean, I'll be able to check after the call who you are, perhaps. So it's important to do that. Again, you don't know if that's the case unless you check your settings. Now, Don has an example here. He's gone, I reviewed your profile and see you are a perfect candidate for a janitorial engineer. He's in the IT field. Now, maybe
I've gotten one. I got one two last year from the same person, 6 months apart. That was fun too. That I would be a great candidate for a renovation franchise. I was like, okay, sure.
So, there's all different ways to respond back to automation. Brendan Miller used to and talks about sometimes just replying back with the word test, and along those lines, replying back with, this is something along the lines of, this is not a great way to pitch, or this is not a great way to do this. Make it a lesson, a learning experience. I mean, I would like to say I do that more often than I do, but I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
And too many of the ones are the same ones. They're pitching me the IT services from, all over. Yes, I am a single proprietor. Yes. But there's no way I'm going to actually reach out to someone that I don't know that's pitching right away.
Yeah. I mean, 100% agree. And then, I got another one from somebody. This is where I get disappointed, is somebody looks like they'll be a good connection. And then, and then it's just constant, I'd love to set some time up with you. Can we find some time to talk? No response. As I mentioned in my first message, blah, 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 blah. Like, no, stop, please.
I mean, I got one of those today. They wanted to set up a meeting, which I was amiable to. They set up it for a time that I was unavailable because it was blocked out on my calendar, that I was busy. So then 4 hours later, and I replied back, and they sent me another one. I'm out of the office for this call, and I know it's automated. I totally get that. So I'm going to pose this question from Nicholas: the difference between automation and artificial intelligence. Go ahead.
So I think it's important to clarify, there's a lot of things that need to be automated in life. I mean, automation is a good thing in a lot of ways, and I'll use a simple example, which is like Calendly is a way to automate the process of booking a call, right? Because before I used Calendly, it would be like a million emails that, how's Thursday at 4? Oh, Thursday at 4, I have a meeting. How about Wednesday at 2? And it's like the amount of time it takes to go back and forth to find the time versus, here's my link, please, feel free to book a time that works for you. I would call that an example of automation, and it makes everyone's life easier. When we talk about automation on LinkedIn, we're talking about third-party tools. Most of them are cloud-based now, I think. Do you think so? I think they've got.
They do, because they're scraping information and they're using the cloud to get around LinkedIn as much as possible.
Right. So it's an external tool that's connecting into your LinkedIn account and is going utilize. Generally, you have to have Sales Navigator. So it usually can, I believe you may always have to have Sales Navigator to connect through. And it's going to, based on your targets, pull lists of people and then push out messaging through connection requests, this, that, and the other.
I would also say, from a recruiting standpoint, LinkedIn Recruiter, you have the ability as a recruiter, you can do all sorts of searches based on a person's profile and their keywords, and it's going to come up with best matches based on that. That's also automation. It's making your life easier as a recruiter. It may not be foolproof, but because it's only as good as the information coming in. We all do automation in our lives. We all have it to some extent. We just have to. But when you get the same correspondence again and again and again, and it doesn't show any, it's one thing to be, again, there's no such thing as half automation, but if you're doing automation to close a realistic sale, whether it's for a job applicant or something else, I mean, it would be no different than me putting a resume up on Monster or LinkedIn or anyone else, which has nothing to do with the background for the job I'm applying for. But I'm going to throw it out there and hope that someone sees it, even though I don't have the skills. And that's a reverse automation. I mean, that's a horrible thing to do. And I don't think recruiters and hiring managers are up against that too. Go ahead.
I agree. I mean, so the challenge with LinkedIn is, number one, it breaks the use agreement, because you're not supposed to use these third-party tools. And it just is so obvious. Now, sometimes it's not obvious. And I will kind of be, I empathize. Everyone has a job. Everyone's doing the best that they can. Sales is tough. Prospecting is hard. However, there are ways of doing it that don't that where you don't have to depend upon these like canned impersonal messages that are often off target. And the issue I have with a lot of these companies is that they're very cagey about what the reality is. They will tell, and they've told Ken and I, these work LinkedIn. We've never had a problem. We've never had a client with a problem. There's never been an issue. Sometimes they're telling customers that LinkedIn, they're LinkedIn approved, which is total lie.
Mm-hmm.
There are only a handful of tools that are approved by LinkedIn. Salesforce, SalesLoft, HubSpot, those tools, you can use those. And I know from clients that I've worked with that Salesforce and SalesLoft does have automation in it,
Mm-hmm.
where you can send connection requests and things like that. But when you're using like these other tools, like, can we name some of them?
We can. Well, I think Angus or someone has a whole list of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot out there. And it's like whack-a-mole because like one goes away and a new one crops up. But those are not approved by LinkedIn, and they have in the teeny, teeny, tiny, itty bitty fine print that they basically indemnify themselves against anything happening to your account. So if you get locked out or, God forbid, kicked out of LinkedIn because you break the rules, I believe 3 times, 3 strikes and you're out, just like baseball. They're like, well, sorry.
Think about from the perspective, we all get robocalls all the time. We can, we may not recognize the phone number, may not pick it up, but it's a robot on the other end that's sending the same type of call to lots of people, whether it's a real estate, whether it's a loan, whether it's this or that. And I would doubt very seriously they're getting any success from it. They're annoying. We can block them, but they'll keep coming up. And that's kind of what I would characterize the LinkedIn automation we're talking about. Automation to make your processes better as an end result, that takes work though. You're not just automating it, you're actually figuring out the best way to automate it to make your life easier, because we all have things in our lives. It's just taking something out of the box and throwing it up against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Agree. And the other reminder is that the customers of these companies are spending money on Sales Navigator. They may or may not have had it already. So let's just say I'm a customer. I'm really, you're going to give me, all these leads a month. Okay, what do I do? Well, first I have to pay for Sales Navigator, which is not cheap. And then I have to pay for your service. So that's several $100s a month that I'm spending to deliver what? Probably more often than not, it's actually going to, hurt my reputation online versus delivering qualified lead to my inbox, because their definition of a lead is what most people call a target.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could say that the 840 million users on LinkedIn are all leads for me because they're technically all my customers, because my business is helping people with LinkedIn, but that would be a ridiculous thing to say, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But they're basically saying anybody who could potentially use your service is a lead. That's not what leads are.
The other thing we've talked about before is doing a search on a Google image.
Yeah.
Because I got, at one time I got 3 or 4 connection requests over the exact same one. And I just did a search on the Google image, and that image was populated on multiple profiles, which kind of proved my point. You have to really look, if you have a picture on the profile, is it a real person? Is it someone? And yes, this is work, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. I don't have millions of followers or anything like that. And that doesn't bother me in the least, because I'd rather have quality versus quantity, for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. It's important, like, between the automation and the fake accounts and all that stuff, it's important for people to just be familiar with it and understand that exists. And then what do we do about it? So you have some options. Let's talk about like the messaging piece. I mean, if somebody pitches you immediately that you just connected to, you have several options. You can just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
You can disconnect from them.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, if you really want to, you could report and block them. Depends on, I guess, how annoyed you are by what it is. Um, so pick one of those three, or you could do nothing. I mean, and just let it go. I mean, it really. No, I mean, some of our friends like Kevin Turner is you generally going to default to the reporting protocol more than often because he really is so passionate about the integrity of LinkedIn. Same with fake accounts, I feel like need to be reported. No other. Don't ignore them, and definitely don't accept those connection requests. If something looks weird, like you said, that when you didn't know that person that you talked about earlier, you could have probably thought that was a fake account.
I also wish LinkedIn did a better job. Like I get a lot of stuff in my spam folder more than, and I flag stuff. Every once in a blue moon, I get something flagged in the LinkedIn spam folder or however they define it. But not, I would love if there was a way that more of my connection requests or something could just be flagged that way and I can make that decision. I don't know how easy it is to do that. Just given the amount of traffic on the platform. But again, it's really hard, to know sometimes what the best way is to do it. From LinkedIn's perspective too.
Yeah, I don't know why there isn't. I was just curious about my spam folder, and I have a few in here, but it sure would be nice if we could report something as spam. I mean, that would be so cool. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
So again, this is the thing I've gotten this many times. Your car warranty is expiring soon. Press 1.
Constantly.
And the worst thing you can do sometimes is pick up the phone to get the call because then that just puts you on to the next call after that.
Yeah, I have an app on my phone. It works somewhat well called Hiya, HIYA, and that is like a robocall blocker.
Right.
So now I get like potential spam calls me all the time. Like, oh, potential spam is calling again.
Yeah. And so I'd be curious if other people have other questions, because I think it's important to bring up the difference between automation and AI, especially since everything is headed that way. I mean, Alex Freund, who's on the call, talks about video interviewing, and there are interviews now that are being done with AI, and they're measuring that. So I mean, automation is just strict. No one is. It's just sent out. I guess AI, you kind of have to have a human to kind of build it in a little bit too.
Well, though, I mean, what is the biggest irony on LinkedIn is that they use AI to kind of find some of these bots, and so sometimes real human people get caught up in that. Like Jeff Young, I think Ariel Lee's had that issue before, and so the bots are not always the best at seeing what's a person and what's not.
Well, and what happened in Jeff's case, he actually opened up multiple tabs.
That was Ariel was doing that too.
He had like 20-25 tabs open, and LinkedIn flagged that as automation when he was just trying to do, what he does. But again, it's based on a formula or an algorithm, as we
or like I think what they look for is like actions that don't feel like a human would take them. So opening multiple tabs feels too robotic versus like I might go, because I've got bookmarks for people who I want to can engage with, and I may spend 3 minutes on your profile looking at your most recent post and then click to someone else's and not see anything new and click right off of it. So it's like spending different amounts of time on different tabs. But that's the irony, is that the platform is using automation / AI in order to police automation.
The other aspect is it's not automation per se, but there's so many engagement pods where you post something in there and people agree to post each other's stuff, and there's paid pods. And if you ever wonder why a lot of comments or a lot of posts get thousands of comments and likes, it's probably because there's an automation aspect to it. Now that puts everyone else at a disadvantage. But again, and that's why I don't look at the numbers as much for myself. but it's just not it's LinkedIn looking the other way.
Yeah. I mean, well, but there's also there's actually like platforms that will do that for you too, which is extra icky and gross. I think my husband got an email or a LinkedIn message from one of those companies trying to, pitch, we'll tell us who you want to engage with and we'll comment on blah, blah, blah posts. And I was like, oh, no, don't do that. Horrible. That's like pods and automation, like a horrible marriage of those two things.
I know. I was actually in a pod for about a week or two. I didn't realize what it was until I got into it. And then it was the message was 10 o'clock every day, you're supposed to share the articles within the pod. And I was like, really? And yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so the other piece that I would like clarify is that there's a big difference between a pod where it's expected that you are going to engage with everybody's content, whether it resonates with you or not, which is why you see like, great post, thank you, so insightful. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but for me personally, it's like, if there's a group of people that just want to help support each other, and you can share your most recent post and it's up to the individuals whether it resonates with them. And if it doesn't, that's cool. Like there's no obligation. So a couple years ago, I did a LinkedIn course with Madeline Mann. That's she used to do. I don't know if she still does her LinkedIn for Thought Leaders class. It was really good. And I met a group of women in that. And we still will share our content from time to time, but there's absolutely no expectation of anybody commenting on it. It's more of like, if you like it, great. And if you have nothing to say, okay, cool.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if they had, like, you see with ads that they're sponsored. I would love it if they could put some of the content as sponsored or paid or something so I can differentiate. I mean, if you're paying for that or having to pay, it's good to know that. I mean, well, they're not going to do it, of course, probably,
No.
but
Definitely not. I mean, it's funny. I had a client a couple of years ago and I was helping her with her profile. And as soon as I looked at her content, I was like, are you in a pod? And she's like, yes. How do you know? I'm like, because you have like a crazy number of engage, like so many likes, like the reactions to comment ratio is really, really off. And just scrolling through some of the comments, they were all those like generic comments. And she's like, it's been great. It gets me so many views, which it probably does. However, is it getting you views for people who care at all about what you have to talk about? I mean, I don't care if I could get 100,000 views on every single post, but if that's coming from people that would never, ever be my customer or refer me, what is the point? I'd rather have 1,000 views of really targeted people who know what I do and would want to potentially work with me or refer someone to me or partner with me versus a huge number of views of people who are like, who could care less about me.
Which brings me to something which just rolled out as the laugh icon. You now have the ability on LinkedIn when you are commenting on a post. It used to be the thumbs up. Most people do that sometimes to support. Now you have the blue smiley.
Why is it blue?
And then, well, that's the other thing. Andy was like, well, why is the other one purple? But the idea is now you can actually, if you think about, it's another way to engage. It's a laugh icon actually, so you can laugh at something, and that's another icon. And I have such mixed feelings about that. I think it's great to have that as an ability, as a laugh on things, but it's going to get out of hand, I'm afraid, with stuff.
Yeah, so that rolled out while I was offline last week because I was not on LinkedIn for about a week, and which was great. I mean, we both love it, but man, I needed a break so badly. It was really good to take a nice detox from my phone. Sure. I think it's a good thing because there's a lot of things that are funny And I love humor, and I think I'm a funny person. And but like Kevin Turner's post today was hilarious, and I commented, I was like, "Did you write this just so people would have a reason to use the laugh icon?" I think we will see some people using it in a mean way, like to be kind of passive aggressive or
And that was my concern, because I think Kevin even said LinkedIn was discussing this, the idea of it's going to become, it could come across the wrong way. Like if you're laughing at someone or instead of laughing with them, and there's, that's where tone, it's very hard sometimes to even inflict tone when you're writing something.
Yeah, I hope people I think I would imagine it'll be the vast majority are going to use it in the way it's intended. And then there's always going to be some jerks that are going to be, ugly about things. But there's a lot of funny things that happen. And, I've been using like the clap one for something I think is funny, but it just doesn't convey the same feeling that a laugh one will.
Well, it's almost like the curious one. Curious is one of those weird options. You're curious.
So
is that weird. A good curious, or is it a bad curious, or is it a
passive aggressive curious? Yeah, that one doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Like, is it that I don't understand what you're saying, or let me think about that? I mean, that one I feel like they could just push, like, get rid of that one, and
they may
miss it.
So does anyone have any questions? I see Lori, the icon is being rolled out little by little. I just got it with Virginia probably yesterday. Not everyone has it yet, but I'd be curious to get some feedback from people on the call as to things that they would like us to talk about. Because we were joking, we were actually talking on the call, and this call started late because we were just chatting before we even got
started. We could talk about baseball. We could talk about Ken seeing Paul McCartney last night.
Well, I saw Paul. We can talk about families. I mean, next week we're doing the LinkedIn family thing, and it was a little hard for Rachel to believe, and it's true. My son is 6'8", so hopefully he will fit in the screen. But I'm 6'5", and again, that's part of it. It's like we just have great chats and about things, and I'm very happy to see so many people on this call that I know and I've gotten to know, and I do look forward to what the future holds. I mean, by the way, one of my more recent posts that I'm trying to crowdsource are the terms I wish we didn't have to hear anymore, the terms that we wish would go away, and that's important too when you're actually doing content. You want to crowdsource, you want to engage people in the audience as much as possible.
Oh, absolutely. I missed that one. So what needs to go away?
Well, I'm not sure if it's should much go away, but and I have to think back to it. But last year was the new normal, and last year was wellness together and all that. I have to actually call up the post later on. I mean, I made a joke that every time I think about crypto, I think I'm watching a horror movie. When the word crypto comes up.
Tales from the Crypto.
Yeah, and someone actually did that on the post. It's true. I mean, the metaverse. Okay.
This is where I feel like
Bitcoin. It's like, okay.
See, I feel like a dinosaur with that stuff because I don't understand it at all. And I mean, my kids are a little younger than yours. They're both in high school. But I feel like their generation, it's like I don't want to be like the way I feel like my mom doesn't know how to, use her computer or something like that. Like, I don't want to be like that about, well, what's this crypto? I feel like a dinosaur, but I don't understand it.
No. Okay. Maybe talk about ways to find true engagement buddies to help each other with comments and engagement.
Lori's my engagement buddy.
So what I do a lot of, and Alex does, and we all do, is we all tag each other. First of all, because there's so many different things in our posts that you can't always see everything, but it's a way to let them know. I do think there's a balance between tagging a few people and tagging dozens and dozens of people.
I agree. Yeah. Tag judiciously. How's that? You want to
And
tag
tag differently. Tag different people different days.
Like I get tagged in conversations sometimes, like someone tagged me today in one about like jobs and interviewing. I'm like, I don't really have anything to contribute to that. That's not something that I have a familiarity with. So that was sort of a wasted tag. I appreciate being included with like lots of great people, but that's just not my wheelhouse. But I think that, tagging can work. Honestly, building those relationships offline. And so doing stuff like asking your connections that you've gotten to know to jump on a virtual coffee and just have a conversation, because it builds that relationship. And then, you get to know them better and better. I think figuring out who do you want to be engaging with more, and make that effort to start engaging with them. I mean, that's really, I give this guidance all the time. I actually need to put like some, the little workbook together for a training I'm doing about engagement. But, Clubhouse helped in 2021 for sure. But building relationships with people who in 2019, 2020, I would never, ever imagine what I would ever talk to me, engage with me, by just being deliberate and commenting meaningfully, asking questions in the DMs when it's something relevant. It just makes such a huge difference in how you build relationships with people.
I think the challenge is most people just don't know where to get started. And the easiest way to get started is just to engage, comment on other posts, go to the LinkedIn news section, the top right, and start commenting there about things, for sure.
Yeah. And if you can identify like 5 to 10 people, so I would do it a couple of ways. People who are in your industry. So, and this is what I did 2019, 2020. I went through Brenda's Rockstar list when that would come out, and I would start following a lot of people on her list. I think that's probably where I came across you for the first time.
Yeah.
I would start following them, and then I would try to deliberately engage with content, because my business is pretty new and I have, a smaller network, but I wanted to kind of get in with some of the bigger named LinkedIn voices out there. And so I started commenting and then building those relationships. So thinking about who are the people in your industry that have a larger following with you, who are creating content that resonates with you, that you can be engaging with. And then there's just people that you like because they're entertaining, and they, you kind of vibe with them, comment on them. So if you can identify 5 to 10 people in category 1 and 5 to 10 people in category 2, and then just make a habit of looking at their most recent posts a couple times a week, that goes a long way with engagement strategy.
So I get this question asked a lot, and it's not the basic versus premium question, because that's a whole different thing. How much time do you spend, or how much time do you recommend people spend on LinkedIn?
Not as much time as I spend.
Okay.
That's always my answer. I was like, well, LinkedIn is my business, so I'm on LinkedIn all day. My guidance is, if you can spend 45 minutes a day, but you break it into 3 15-minute chunks. So in the morning, again, if you don't like looking at your phone first thing in the morning, I get it. But if you are like easing into your day, I think the mobile app is good for this. Drinking my coffee, scroll through LinkedIn, see what's going on for today, because our friends in Europe and England, it's the middle of the day for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bedtime for our friends in Australia. So like, what did I miss? What's going on? Who do I want to make sure I go back and drop a comment on? I don't recommend commenting before you drank your first cup of coffee, because sometimes some gobbledygook comes out. Do the same thing in the middle of the day. Spend 15, 20 minutes. Just take a pulse of what's going on. And then if you're sitting watching your favorite team play baseball in the evening, or whatever TV's on, scroll at night. I think if you can break it up like that, it is very doable. Nobody needs to spend hours a day.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you very much, Rachel, for joining us today. We talked about doing this before because we were going to be seeing each other this weekend anyway. So I said, wouldn't it be great if we actually had this conversation in advance to do that?
It's going to be
Kind of
fun.
like that. What?
Excited for you to come to Atlanta.
I'm very excited too. Believe it or not. I mean, the good thing about going on a trip like this is it's just enough time to get away and disconnect for the most part, and um, then come back and one more week till 4th of July. So that becomes a kind of a bridge week.
Yes, well,
before you know it, it's
my
4th of
first
July.
official day back at work after being off for a week. So this was a good way to ease back into like work mode.
And Rachel, there is a surprise coming for you when we come down.
Ooh, yay.
Not going to share more, except I'll say that you never go to someone's house empty-handed.
Oh, goody. Well, I'm going to take my guess as what it'll be. I'm sure we'll post some pictures because it's always fun to post pictures when you get to meet your LinkedIn friends in person. And that would be my other piece of advice. If you're traveling somewhere, look up who's there.
Mm-hmm.
Try to meet them. It's so awesome to meet your LinkedIn friends in real life.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great day. Stay safe. Oops, too much of that word again, but take care.
See you later. Thanks for having me.
Likewise. Thanks for being here.